Hello.
Hey, it looks like we've been on for a little while.
We are live. We are live right now.
Okay. I'm
It's
just looking at the timer and saying live 45 seconds, and I'm like, where did the time go?
oh, it's only saying 16 seconds. So hi, here
Hey,
we are. We are live. It's Friday. We're entering into Shabbat. It's my favorite time of the week.
time to
I
get Shabbatical.
Yes. So, welcome to the Inspired Life. This is our monthly live where we come on and talk about all things Hebrew roots, all things emotional health, spiritual health, and any question and answer. And we have some cool stuff to talk about today as we've been making great progress on our app and on the stuff that we have behind the scenes, what we've been working on over here. So welcome. We
Yeah.
are in the month of we are well into the month. I wanted to say what day we were on. Day 11, I think, of the month of Tammuz already.
Wow.
Time is flying. Time is
Right.
flying by. So we wanted to say thank you for everyone that has joined us for the Inspired Life. And thank you also for being patient with us as we've been doing the last minute things on the app. We did not know that when you finish the app, you have to get it approved by Apple. So
Yeah.
we are in the waiting phase of that. Yes, Apple and Google. So it should be about a week to 7 to 10 days, they said. So
Yeah.
we will see. So in the meantime, we will be here in this group going live. And if you are a member, we will send you the video also in an email so you can be sure that you see it. So we're very excited. One of the things that is super exciting is this week we sent out a special little gift really that Dan created. This was his brainchild. Everyone loves a planner. I know I do. I love planners. And so he created a planner that's called A Time to Align. And very excited about this. We mailed these out this week. So keep your eye out in your mailbox. If you have joined us, you will get this in the mail. But I wanted Dan,
Looks like this.
yeah, for you to share a little bit about how this works and what it's all about.
Yeah. So we kind of got some questions about this because we highlighted, our introduction of this and what it was for. But also, we're transitioning from a Western mindset, a Greek mindset, if you will, into more of a Hebrew mindset. And that means that a paradigm shift is taking place. That means that a lot of the ways that we look at things, a lot of the ways that we experience our life are very different when viewed through the lens of a Greek mindset versus a Hebrew mindset. It's something that we touch on in our yearly planner and guide as well, A Living Inspired Life. But I think it's important to revisit it for a second because it kind of helps set up. So in a Hebrew, there we go.
Yeah.
Visual aid. So in a Hebrew mindset, it looks at things very, very differently. And that's why this planner is kind of built around a Hebrew mindset versus a Greek mindset, which is why we're having this conversation. So a Greek mindset views fundamentally everything as everything is ultimately knowable, everything is ultimately fixable through our own intellect and human effort. So in a Greek mindset, there's really very little, if any, God in that. And then when it's gotten adapted into sort of the schools of theology and the seminaries, it becomes, okay, well, now there's a certain amount of detail that is knowable. We know that, and then we can move on to the next theological point, and we don't have to consider it any longer. Well, this has had some pretty major ramifications for theology, because in theology, they use something called systematic theology. So it's kind of like, without going into the weeds, it's basically like you go in with a predetermined outcome, a system, and then you use scripture to proof text it into that system. So in other words, you find scriptures that either say or can be bent to say exactly what it is that your system says is true. And it breaks things down into smaller pieces, which to the benefit of that helps you understand things at a more granular level. But again, if you don't understand how those pieces fit together in the larger context or in their larger whole, then it's kind of like that cliche, how you miss the forest for the trees. It's like that. And so it's a very limiting, very human-driven approach to things. If you want to sort of see how that looks, it's kind of like, think about any sitcom you've ever watched. No matter what problem is going on or problems, everything is neatly resolved in 23 minutes. And that's kind of the mindset that drives that. And we see that in a lot of different areas. The Hebrew mindset starts with the approach that there is no end to God. That you could spend all of eternity considering and pondering God, and you still wouldn't get to the end of him. Now, that doesn't mean that God isn't knowable in the sense that we can know him intimately. We can know him in connection with him. In fact, we're designed for that. We're designed for union with God. It just means that we're also in love with a God that cannot be limited in any way, shape, or form by the human brain. And because that's a difficult concept to grasp, we don't like to spend a lot of time thinking about it because it causes brain cramps. So, but that's important moving on, because really what this book is designed to do is, I didn't want to just write one more planner. And I feel like it's weird. This is about 4.5, 5 years ago. God just kind of downloaded this to me one day, and then it kind of sat there. And I kept wanting to use it and apply it. And then it was almost like God was saying, wait. Now, really, that we're trying to build our lives around the rhythm that God has established in the Hebrew calendar. That rhythm has a weekly rhythm. We're experiencing that right now. Later today, we'll be entering the Sabbath rest. Okay. There's also the Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month, which sometimes is 1 or 2 days of rest, depending upon the month. And then we have the festivals that God calls us to celebrate. And again, there's even more rest involved in that. And so we're building our life rather than going off of our own best wisdom, our own humanistic understanding. We're saying, no, God set and established a rhythm long ago, and we are best suited to that rhythm. We will get the most out of life following and living in that rhythm. Yeah. We will experience life to the full, in other words, within the context of God's rhythm. So this planner, and this is kind of what some of you have asked, and it makes sense because this is sort of a little bit of a new idea. This planner is really designed to get to the core of what's important, because we don't want to live busy lives. We want to live productive lives. And we're defining productive life as in alignment with what God has set for us, the story that God has written for our life. That is a productive life, to the extent to which we are living in alignment with that, to the extent to which we embrace that. And so this is really just, there's nothing magical or mystical about this. I wasn't, this stumbling across a piece of the temple in Israel when we were there a few years back. None of that. Okay. This is just something that God gave me because his desire is for us to live in the important, not in the immediate. Okay. And so the more we build our lives around his rhythm, and in particular around what is important as defined by God, then the more we are going to get out of life. The more that we are going to experience everything that God means for us to experience. And so a big part of that is just figuring out, okay, well, all right, so there's Greek mindset, Hebrew mindset, and this is where a lot of your questions have come in, like, okay, so what do you do with that? So this is really, the planner is a way to make practical the rhythms that we're talking about in the months, and the seasons of the year. And so in this, for example, we kind of open it and we're looking at, there's a little bit, the book opens with a description, kind of like giving some context. So it isn't just like this, hey, what are we doing and why are we doing it? It's really for that. But in it, it starts out and we're looking at, the winds for the year. And it's set up initially where it gives you a description of the season, what that season is kind of about. And then there's just a little bit of space for each one of the 3 months that are in that season. And the idea is to really pray, look at what God's purpose is, right? That we lay out in our other book, and then go, okay, so what is God putting on my heart that's really important to as a goal, as a win for this month? And that win might be something that happens within 4 weeks, or that win might be something that is taking place and evolving over time, perhaps over months, perhaps over years, perhaps over your lifetime. So it isn't like it has to be a particular type of thing. It really is, what is God saying for you to do in this month or series of months, that he's trying to help you write the story of your life. He's already written it. He's helping you try to experience it and step into it, right?
Love that.
That's what that is. And then the second part, it breaks it down into weeks. In other words, because this goal might be pretty big, which is fine, or it could be smaller. That's fine. All that matters is that A, it's aligned with what God is wanting, and 2, that it's important. Now, obviously, we have immediate things we have to do. We have to pay bills. We have to get gas for the car. We have to, I'm not saying to live in la la land. I'm just saying that our lives are driven and governed by the important versus the immediate. Right. That's why a lot of us feel like we have these incredibly busy, packed, full lives of stuff. We're always doing something. And yet if you sit down for a minute and you go, what did I do this week? We're like, I don't know. I know I was really busy though. And that's not how you want to live your life. You want to live your life knowing that it was meaningful. That's one of the reasons, by the way, that a lot of times some of these things are really discouraging, is because on one hand, we're really, really busy and we feel like we're always 10 steps behind whatever it is. We always feel like there's all these things on our to-do list that are not getting done. And yet, we get to the end and we're like, the things that really mattered or were really important to us, we didn't even get to them. So that's really what this is designed to do, is then take each month and divide it maybe into 4 smaller bites. Like, what can I do this week towards my goal? What can I do this week, second and third? And so it's just really a way of breaking down your larger goal into smaller bite-sized pieces. And like I said, some of these goals are something that, yes, will be accomplished within the month, and others will be more ongoing. It doesn't matter. It's really just about what God is saying to you is important, and then go for it. So anyways, I just wanted to, because some of you have asked and needed some clarification on that, I just wanted to make sure you understood not just what it was and why we were doing it, but more importantly, how it benefits you. Because you want to be able to look back on the year and go, you know what, all the stuff that really mattered to me or to our family, we did it. This year was a win because we did what was important. Not just, oh, we had a really busy year.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's hopefully answers your question. Obviously, we love questions. So anything that you toss our way, we are always happy to get into, because ultimately we really want you to feel served. We want you to feel taken care of. We want you to feel like, hey, we are not just sort of talking heads, but we're in this experience with you. We are trying to do this same thing. We are trying to figure out how to focus on the important over the immediate. We are trying to figure out how to live in authentic alignment with God and with his seasons and with his months. And that's something we're in the process of doing and learning and embracing. And there's a lot more to learn, which, by the way, is another aspect of the Hebrew mindset I didn't even touch on. And that's that because there is no end to God, there is no end to our questions. So what happens is we ask questions which lead to answers that enable better questions. You ever heard that expression, you don't know what you don't know?
Yep.
Right? Well, that's kind of like what we're in. And then we learn a little bit more. So we do know something. But then what that is that allows, now I can ask a better question. In the Greek mindset, that's the end point. Oh, cool. All right. Well, I guess I solved that. Okay. And I can move on to the next thing and never have to think about this again. And it's a very compartmentalized way of living and thinking. And the Hebrew mindset is everything integrates. It's one of the reasons why when you really get into the Hebrew mindset, you will never have a boring time reading scripture again, because you realize, you know what? Everything has a meaning and a purpose, even if I don't understand what that is. There's always a meaning and a purpose to something that God is writing down in his word. And so it's exciting. It's actually, oh my gosh. I mean, you're just in a constant state of learning, and it's awesome. So anyways, hopefully that answered your question. Do we have anything else that people were asking about?
Well, I think we really wanted, and I love that you did that. We really wanted to do a nice overview of the planner. And it's been really cool to get into it. And I love, Dan, what you wrote in here for the summer, because we're starting in month 4. Basically, we're in month 4 and we're starting in summer. And so summer is the season of sunshine and energy. It is also the time between sowing and reaping. So whatever seeds were sown in the spring of your life requires 2 things during the summer. 1, pulling weeds, and 2, watering seeds. So weeds can be understood as anything that prevents you from walking in alignment with God. And this is so powerful, and it must be removed at the root. Additionally, since nothing grows without water, whatever you planted in the spring needs to be watered. So what needs to be watered in your life? And I love how this is set up. It's like he said, there's winds. So for the 3 months of the summer season, and then over here, each month is broken down into 4 weeks. And so this has been really cool to kind of look at this. This is a spiritual planner. This isn't like a daily do your, check off your things to do. This is what I'm seeing as a spiritual planner. So and this month, if you watched our teaching from last week, we talked about this is the film strip month. Yeah. And what's important about that is that you want to have on the forefront of your mind what God has done. And it's a perfect example this month of how the Israelites, they had 400 years of bondage and slavery, and God brought them out in a huge way with a, parting of the sea, with huge things, big gestures of understanding who he is and who he was for them. And in this time when they panicked because Moses wasn't down when they thought he might be, they panicked and went back to their old ways of their coping mechanisms, their ways of getting peace and support, and those things that we call our golden calves. What is your golden calf? And then if you think about it, if they could have stopped for a moment and said, wow, he opened the Red Sea for us, that's the film strip, right? What are the ways? Like I always think about when we moved from LA to Texas without a job, without knowing, it was a leap, to say the least, of faith. And my dad didn't understand it. Someone who was very important in my life that I didn't really like the idea that he was thinking we're crazy, and there were a lot of things, but man, and it was a hard time. I remember the 6 weeks that we were, after we got here and Dan was looking for a job, I remember being on our face on the floor in this house daily, crying out to God, plugging into every sermon I could get my hands on to think, what have we done? This was a big thing. There was no going back. We had burnt the boat, so to speak. We had sold the house, like we were here. And But the beautiful thing is that became a huge part of my film strip, because when we're up against something and I look back, I was like, we got through that. That was a very scary time. And it felt like we were stepping out off of the ledge. And it's a big part of my film strip where I can look back and go, wow, God brought us through. And man, those times were so connected and close to him. So it's important that you write those things down. And that's why we've gone to the trouble of creating things like this. And even, in the beginning, we have it as a PDF when you join, but it was really on our heart. We were like, no, we wanted to get these to you physically, so you have something that you can write down as a spiritual planner, somewhere where you can write down what are your goals in the month, and write down what are your film strips, what are some of those things that you can go to and remember. I mean, Deuteronomy says that, right? Write it on the tablets of your heart, right? Who God is, and to remind ourselves in those times of panic or those times of doubt
Yeah.
that we want to go to something, that's comfortable, that's been a proven way that we've handled stress and those things in the past, but it's also proven that it doesn't work, and that it's short term. So I'm excited and I love this, and as usual, Dan has really gone above and beyond, and it's a nice little booklet here. I love the whole vibe of it all. So that is one thing that I'm really excited about. We wanted to give you the update on the app. This has been another undertaking that we have done that has been like very cool, and lots of learning curves along the way. But we are so excited at the vision of what this is, because this is going to be our own private place where we can go and safe, and not, you know, everything that we have is going to be living there, and very accessible on your phone, so, or on your desktop actually.
Yeah.
um, and I think that was it. I know that next week we're going to be doing probably a live at some point, but where we wanted to start in this process of alignment is with Sabbath, and with talking about really Sabbath rest and how important it is that you practice it. So we just wanted to leave you guys with that on this Friday afternoon, to really make an effort to figure out what that looks like for you. If you're married, you and your spouse talk about it. If you're a family, talk about it with your family. Like, what would the kids want to do to have that special time that's set aside, that you want to worship God, you want to recognize him, you want to pray, you want to, like, you set it aside to make it holy. And most importantly, it is to practice rest. It's to practice. I mean, when I first started doing Sabbath, it was literally like, okay, I can't worry on that day. I can't worry. I have to take my anxious thoughts and make them obedient. And it's amazing how that takes practice. It's not an easy thing. And all kinds of things come up to test you on that. So we just wanted to encourage you guys to really, really take some time and figure out, even between just you and God, what do you want your Sabbath and your rest in him to look like? And for some people, it's to be alone and have that time with just God and them. And maybe part of that is, connect. It is also about connection with people, with family. He designed it for families to be connected
Yeah.
and to have a meal together and to spend that time together. So we're very, very encouraged by you guys. We love this
Yeah.
group. We really love this tribe of people. We're very encouraged, and we just want to wish you guys the best, best, best for this Sabbath as we go into this weekend.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I just really would echo what you shared, in that it means so much to have a community of people, of like mind and like hearts. We're all different. We all have, there's clearly nobody's a robot here, but there's also a sense of, but we all want to figure out how to love God better.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's a very rare thing. There's a lot of people that go to church, and I'm not saying this in judgment of anybody, but I I don't look at them and go, "Oh, I want your relationship with God. I want to figure out how do you have that with God, right?" And I'm just really grateful because in this group, I feel like that's what we have is we have a group of people who are just trying to figure out how to love God, and that is the activating motive in their life. And I'm so grateful to be around men and women like you. So I just appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys have a beautiful weekend. Shabbat shalom, everybody, and we'll
Not
see you.
shalom.
Bye.
I guess.